Okay guys, in this video we're going to be talking about fuel. What kind of gas to use in your motorcycle. This Honda VTX 1300, we're making a bagger out of it, and it's been sitting for a while. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this air breather cover off, and we're going to get that carburetor taken off, and we're going to clean it up. But this video, we're not going to show anything about that carburetor. We're going to talk about, like I said, fuel. That is probably in the top 3 questions that I get. What fuel to use in my bike? Well, number 1, you want to use ethanol-free gas. Ethanol-free gas. And if you can't use ethanol-free, you need to use some type of additive in your gas to get rid of that ethanol. And what ethanol does is it, if it's not ran out completely or used, it gunks up. Now this Suzuki carb set here, a viewer sent that in for me to rebuild for him, and it had been sitting for a while. And if I can get this turned over where you can see it, see on those bolts there where it looks like a big glob of water or shiny, and you think if you held it up, you'd shake it, it would drip off. It's not. That is where that ethanol fuel has dripped out and varnished, and that's hard, like like hard candy. And that's what happens usually when it's inside the float bowl. It only clogs up your jets. It freezes your float. It causes a whole lot of problems. So if a motorcycle's been sitting for a good long time, even some ethanol gas, if it's cheap gas, it can sit for 1 season and start causing it some problems. Usually a symptom that you can look for to in a carburetor that is clogged up with the float is you'll put gas in the motorcycle, open your petcock, and you're going to have gas running out your filter or just dripping out the bottom of the motorcycle. It may even run. It may idle okay, but when you turn it off, even if you turn your petcock off, gas is going to run down out of your overflow. And what's happening is that float is being stuck open, and it doesn't tell the fuel to cut off. And that's a real good sign that you've got ethanol hindrance in your carburetor. Now, the next big question, if your carburetor runs fine, what octane to use? It always cracks me up. I don't know if you ever watched the Ace Ventura Pet Detective, the first movie that came out, when he's talking to the lady and says, I had to fill my car with premium gasoline because it's a high performance machine. Well, that doesn't, that's a funny line, but that doesn't have really any bearance on motorcycles. This bike, that Suzuki, I think that was a Suzuki bike. Both of these Honda Shadow 600, this 650 here, they all have one thing in common. Every manufacturer set that bike up to use the lowest octane from the pump, 87 octane. And the reason that is, the lower the octane, the lower pressure and heat that fuel will ignite. The higher the pressure and heat a fuel requires is by the higher octane. So if you're running a 97 octane or 94, high octane fuel, it's going to require your motorcycle motor to run hot and have a higher pressure to be able to burn that fuel efficiently. And that is bad news for a motorcycle motor. The higher the heat and the higher the pressure, the more likely you are to ruin your motorcycle. And here's where all the hate comments are going to start coming in down below. There's nothing you can do to your motorcycle to require it to run high octane fuel. I don't care what you do to your carburetor. I don't care what you do to your exhaust, other than boring out your jugs and putting in new pistons and all that stuff. There's nothing you can bolt onto your bike to require you to run high octane fuel. Now let's look at that. I'll go in here to the desk and sit down and kind of draw this out and make it a little more easier for you to understand. Okie doke. I'm going to take some advanced graphics here. This will be your cylinder. We'll just make it a V-twin. Alright, and this is going to be the combustion chamber in here. This is where your fuel, man, that doesn't even look like the word fuel, and air go in. And octane is, we're just going to reference that as heat and pressure. The higher the octane, the more heat and pressure it takes for that fuel to ignite. And both of those things are bad for a motorcycle. So the higher the octane, the more heat and pressure you're going to create in here. So manufacturers design these motorcycle motors to run on 87 octane. That's the lowest pump octane. Why? It's not to save you money. It's not for any kind of a deal that they've worked out with people that manufacture fuel. It's to make this motor run on the lowest pressure and the lowest heat possible to create a decent amount of power. And what that does is creates a longer lifespan for this motor. They want this motor to work past the warranty for the motor. They want the motor to last for a while. They don't want to build a high performance motor that requires a high octane, high heat, high pressure motor that's going to blow up, and they have to replace motors every so often. So that's the biggest reason that they produce motors to run on a low octane fuel. Now let's talk just a little bit about fuels. You have regular fuel that you at the gas station, and then you have racing gas. And some gas stations will have both. I mean, some places I've seen around here, especially if you get close to like drag strips and that kind of thing, they'll sell racing gas. Now, racing gas typically is 100 plus octane. Now, what makes racing gas unique is the blend that's created. Now, regular pump gas is kind of like cheese. I know that's an odd comparison if you think about it, but if you think about it how it's made, that comparison makes sense. You can go to your grocery store and buy cheap cheese because only 51% of it has to be actual cheese. The other 49% rather can be anything from whatever they can get it to put in it to bulk it up. The least ingredients in cheese is the same thing as the least ingredients in gas. The least ingredients they've got in it, the higher the price goes up, because the more it's pure gas, and the more crude oil it takes to make per ounce. Now, typical gas at a gas station can have anywhere from 150 additives up to 1,000. You know, it can be detergents. I mean, it could be just all kind of antioxidants and just all kinds of stuff in there to bulk it up. Now, racing fuel, you can get several different blends because racing fuel, each engine that you build, you can get different things in your fuel. You know, an additive to make it ignite lower, higher. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff in racing fuel. And you can actually get 87 octane racing fuel. And what makes it racing fuel is because that 87 octane is the purest of the gas that you can get as far as additives goes, and you can kind of tailor make that 87 octane gas to exactly what you want it to do. But as far as your off the showroom floor motorcycle, I mean, there might be one or two exceptions out there, very, very few, is going to run off of 87 octane the best. If you want to increase power, increase performance, you're not going to do it by increasing your octane level on your fuel. You're going to stand the risk of damaging your motorcycle in the long run if you use high octane fuel. Okie doke. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna try to cover some other questions. They're not going to be fancy videos. I don't put out fancy videos. I just try to get to the information as quickly in the video as possible so you guys can turn a wrench or two and get right back out riding. Thank you guys for watching.